Well, we want to take a look now at how Toyota's product matches up against the competition, at least in the eyes of consumers. Auto analysts Edmunds.com say that consumers are relatively happy with the Japanese company, pointing to a federal report that says when it comes to the total number of consumer complaints, Toyota actually ranks 17th among automakers. Joining us now is Karl Brauer, editor-in-chief of Edmunds.com. Karl, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. Toyota ranking 17th, was that before or after these problems started to creep up?
Well, that's based on data that goes from 2001 through 2010 into this year, and that's analyzing the amount of cars sold versus the amount of complaints coming in across 20 different manufacturers. So obviously that's a lot of complaints across the manufacturers, but also a lot of sales, and it gives us a complaints per sale number, and that's where Toyota comes out 17th out of 20, meaning there's 16 companies that are worse than Toyota for having more complaints per car sold.
And Karl, before we get into Toyota, who is number one?
Number one was Land Rover.
Any sense why? Did the consumers give specifics?
You know, I think this covered a lot of different areas. I know that with Land Rover, they have had kind of a reputation about having more minor glitches. That's not really, you know, major issues with the cars usually, but they often have a lot of minor technical and electronic glitches. Some people feel like it's still the leftover, you know, British Electrics that are playing there. Although, of course, the company's owned by an Indian company now, so I don't know how that's possible. But
Karl, to get back to Toyota for a minute here. So when you look at these data, when you look at sort of the bigger picture, do you think that the recall situation has been blown out of proportion at all?
I think it has to some extent. I mean, certainly we don't want to ignore serious potential problems with any vehicle or any manufacturer, but I think there's been kind of a chain reaction here with the Toyota, some dramatic news coverage of some specific incidents that they've had, and a high number of recalls, you know, a high number when you're in the millions on recalling these vehicles. When you get down to the actual number of actual incidences that they've suffered versus how many cars they're selling globally, it's a small number.
And we talked to somebody at Consumer Reports who said that recalls aren't a problem for consumers as long as the problem is clearly identified and fixed. Toyota today gave an update and said a lot of the problems have been fixed, but do you think that indeed that the recalls aren't going to be a big problem for consumers, that this is a short-lived issue?
I do, honestly, overall. I mean, if anything, we might see a higher percentage of recalls being issued by all the manufacturers, because I think they're all more aware of this now, and none of them want to feel like they're getting caught out or want to suggest they aren't being forthcoming, which is what has been thrown at Toyota recently. So I think we might actually see an uptick in recalls, but that's going to be as much making sure that these automakers are doing what they need to do than the fact that the cars are getting worse or cars are unsafe. And Toyota's right there with the rest of them. They're going to make sure they're very forthcoming from now on.
And Karl, was this something, is it one of those things where it takes a problem or a crisis of this magnitude for that light to be turned on? Was this something that Toyota had a template for, that other automakers had a template for, or is it unfortunately one of those things that they get it when something like this happens?
I think it's more the latter. I think that, you know, you've got a few factors playing in. Again, some dramatic, you know, audio tape of a very unfortunate crash that happened in one of their products, combined with some ongoing issues they've had with acceleration and pedals. But it could have easily been another car company. We've seen it in the past with like Firestone and Ford. So they're in the spotlight now, but it's not like there's really anything unique to them, at least nothing so far that's really showing an indication that they're unique in this instance.
But what about the management of the problem? Because some are saying that it's the culture at Toyota that exacerbated this issue, that made them perhaps less forthcoming. What do you think the perception is about that?
I think if you went back to 2001 or 2002, you'd find a lot of people saying the same things about Ford and Firestone tires. So again, I think we're seeing a chain reaction here that's unfortunate, and we certainly want it to be looked into. We don't want to act like it's not a big deal or worth looking into, but again, if things come down the pipe in just the right way and they're focused on just the right way, it can make any car company look bad depending on what's going on.
All right, Karl Brauer of Edmunds.com, thanks a lot for joining us to talk about the latest with Toyota. Appreciate it.